Hey YouTube, this is Eric from Thump'em Up Fishing, and today I thought I'd do a quick video around why I like my Lund Impact 1775. I spent a lot of time trying to decide what boat was the right boat for me, and this ended up being the one that I chose, and to be totally honest with you, I've had it for about 6 months and I love it. So let me go over some of the features of the boat, why I chose it, what was important to me, and what I really like about this boat. And hopefully if you're looking for a boat, you'll strongly consider this if it meets your needs as well. So the number one priority for me is I wanted a boat that would actually fit in my garage. And believe it or not, thanks to the stowaway tongue, and also thanks to the fact that I have a 1.5 car garage and I can put this boat at an angle, I can actually fit this boat completely inside my garage, which prevents me from having to put it in storage and pay that extra money. The other thing I like about my boat, and if you watch my fishing videos at all, you know I'm all about striper fishing and I predominantly use live bait. So I bought these ram mount holders and it has a track all the way around the side of the boat. So if I'm normally fishing with bait from a spot lock position using my Minn Kota here, these rod holders, I can put 3 on each side, drop those down and hopefully pick up some striper. If I'm actually going to be drifting, then what I'll do is I'll tie my drift sock on, move 2 rod holders in front, 2 rod holders in back, and that gives me plenty of room to actually drift. So you can see I normally have these 2 rod holders here. I would simply move the front 2 on the same side, and then I would have plenty of rod holders to drift fish for striper. The other thing is if you look at the cockpit, I actually have plenty of room in the back, because you can see I've got 2 seats for the captain and the co-pilot, and then I also have 2 fold-up seats back here. I have my bait tank stored right now over the last 2 sets of seats. You can see the seat mount for them. But tomorrow, for example, I'm going to be fishing for sand bass and I'm actually going to be using slabs and spoons. So I'm going to take out my bait tank and put another seat back here. That way, number one, I'll be able to hold 6 people all together. And number 2, if I don't need the bait tank, I've got plenty of room to add a couple more anglers. So I'm going to be fishing with a bunch of kids tomorrow just for the fun of it. And that'll give us plenty of room to fish without that bait tank being in the way. So this is a Moeller bait tank. Literally you can, it comes with a bracket to screw it into the floor, but because I want that portability, I don't do that. I just let it sit on the floor and hold it down with a couple of bungee cords, primarily for when I'm driving. The other thing about the boat, if you step back and look at it, is the depth of the cockpit. Again, I'm gonna be fishing with some kids tomorrow. My daughter's 4, her friends, my other daughter is 7, her friends are 7 and 4. So when I have a group of kids in the boat, I want to make sure the cockpit's deep enough to keep them all safely inside the cockpit. So as I'm running around trying to help everyone fish, I can worry about fishing and not have to focus on kids falling out of the boat. That said, obviously I have life jackets for everyone, so if that does happen, it's actually just a beautiful day to go swimming. The other thing that I did, if you see my videos, I use my splasher. So when I order my boat from the manufacturer, I actually put in an extra trolling motor plug that you can see here in the back. And that's real convenient because I can hook my splasher directly up to my trolling motor battery, which gets charged every time. I don't have to keep an extra battery for my splasher. And that keeps all the splashing going and hopefully draw in some white bass and striper. The other thing I like about my Lund is the fact that it's an aluminum boat. I have had both aluminum and fiberglass, and the challenge that I see here in Texas is there's a lot of timber in the water, there's a lot of submerged fence posts, things like that. And because the water levels fluctuate, there isn't a clear way to be able to drive safely from one year to another. Even if you think you have a route one year, the lake level may drop 10, 15 feet, and next thing you know, you're hitting stumps where before there weren't any stumps. So I like the fact that I have an aluminum hull on my boat so that it will basically bounce off the wood and not tear it up. I did have a nice Ranger fishing ski. Unfortunately, I hit a T-post or something underneath the water. It did about $4,000 worth of damage. That was all covered by insurance, but again, it takes your boat out of commission for several weeks, and it's something that you want to avoid whenever possible. So the aluminum hull here, I think, is very useful. The other thing is the Keller, and honestly, the Keller wasn't necessarily a big criteria for me, but when I asked my daughters what color they wanted me to get, they wanted a blue boat. So again, a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old girl who, oh, by the way, happen to be some mad fans of Frozen. So you can see my one daughter has a Frozen bike. So what I did was, when I asked them what color boat they wanted, they said they wanted a blue boat. So I bought an Elsa sticker and I stuck it on the window. And this is now referred to as the Elsa boat. When I ask my daughters if they want to go fishing, 9 times out of 10 they're going to say no. If I ask them if they want to go out in the Elsa boat, their response is absolutely. So it's a better way for me to get more quality fishing time with my kid. The other things that I did is I made some modifications. I actually had this old rod rack on my other boat. I use this rack to store my knife, my pliers, and my net. That way they're conveniently located and easy to get to. So whenever I need them for fishing, you'll see me tell people to get the net ready. We just grab it out of this. It's stored nice and neat out of the way. When we're running, we grab it out of that and get it set up. The actual storage in the boat is huge. I've got a big storage compartment here. I actually have a thumper, another thumper can, about 5 life jackets stored in here, and you can see I've got plenty of room. This front compartment isn't huge, but I use it to store the kids' life vests, and then if I pull those out, I also have my drift sock located underneath that. So it's not huge. I mean, you can see my hand here. It's probably about 10 by 15. And then also in the front, I have another up front live well that honestly I really don't use this for a live well, but this makes a great cooler. I can fill it with ice, throw some drinks in there, and then it'll drain out when I'm done. So this is my rod rack fully loaded, and what you see is I've got 6 bait rods on the bottom, and then I've got 4 of my slab and spoons that I use for white bass up on top. So the one thing I will say is this isn't really perfectly designed for spin cast. I think it's designed more for bait casters and conventional reels. The spin cast is a little bit of a game of Tetris to try and get everything in there. But the good news is the rod holders are deep. I think they're 7 foot, 7.5 foot. So I have plenty of room to put my larger rods in there, and then I just kind of set them up based on what I'm planning to fish for. One other challenge that I did have with the Lund is just the tackle box that I had that I was using my old boat and actually fit in my compartment doesn't really fit in any of the compartments that I have other than a large compartment up front, and it's still too tall to actually be able to close the compartment. So what I ended up doing is sticking it up underneath the front console. Normally I turn it sideways so I have plenty of room to put my feet up underneath there, but I just wanted to show you that. The other thing is Lund comes with an option and it creates some more storage space underneath here. I opted not to do that because I use that extra space to store my salt. That's what's in the bucket to the right is salt that I use to put in the bait tank. And then I've got 2 cast nets in the bucket on the left, and that's also the bucket I use to transfer shad. So you can see it's got plenty of room for those, yet they're tucked out of the way so they're not interfering when we're fishing. I do have the stereo, which I didn't have on my old boat, and I have plenty of room. The other thing is I have plenty of room to put my Garmin in here. So I've got my Garmin set up, and as you can see, it's a 9-inch Garmin, so it's got plenty of room to put the Garmin on there. I've actually got a place over here I can stick my cell phone if I want to leave my cell phone there. If I'm using Navionics or something on my cell phone, I want to watch that as well. So one of the nicest features from my boat as a whole, and although this isn't a Lund, but it's an add-in to the Lund, was the fact that I decided to go with the Garmin Panoptix. And what I did was I created this PVC mount so that I could actually mount my Panoptix transducer on the back end of the PVC pipe. So basically what I do is when I get to where I'm going, I actually toss the PVC pipe over, and then you can see I have a handle here. The smaller handle just holds it up against the boat, and the larger handle is what I use to pivot my PVC so I can see in 360 degrees. That way I can use my Panoptix and scan completely around my boat. I'm actually using my ram mount here, the way I have it set up to configure it so that it's not going to accidentally fly out of the boat when I'm driving down the road. So I'm going to fix that real quick, and then I'll show you how the PVC works. So here's the Panoptix with the mount actually fully deployed. So like I said, this piece of the PVC is pointing in the direction that the transducer is facing. So when I'm actually out fishing, I can simply grab the handle, spin it around 360 degrees, and get a complete view all the way around the boat. So you've seen Tim do a lot of his redfish videos, Skunked Again on YouTube, on his channel, where he's able to pole completely around the boat. So having that transducer on that mount is the easiest way to do that. So just having a mount that you can spin. This is a very simple mount. I just glued a bunch of PVC pipe together and created that for probably less than 10 bucks. It's a little bit less sophisticated than what Tim makes, but it's a little bit easier for me to operate. So this is a picture of the boat with the 3rd row seats fully deployed. As you can see, there isn't a lot of space now because the cockpit's coming somewhat cramped. But what I would probably do is move the bait well on top of the live well The boat itself has a pretty good sized live well. The challenge here in Texas, especially when you're fishing in the summer and it's 90 and 100 degrees outside, is it just gets too hot and the fish end up stressed and dying. So typically what I do is I keep a cooler to put the fish in. That's normally what's sitting on top of the live well. And then I use, usually I keep a cooler to put the fish in. That's normally what's sitting on top of the live well. And then I just keep the bait tank centered here. If I'm fishing with a bunch of kids though, I think what I'm gonna do is leave one bait tank here, have a kid sit on their parent's lap while we're running, and then have them move up to the front when we're actually fishing. I also have the front live well, but realistically you're not gonna put a bunch of 5-pound striper in that live well. There's just not enough room. So just one of the challenges I have is the fact that I do have a small boat that's big enough to fit in my garage. I have to make some sacrifices, but overall, I very rarely fish with large groups of people. And in general, that's only when I'm taking out kids. Usually I'll go with 4 or 5 adults max, and we always have plenty of room to fit within the cockpit. So that's one other nice feature. The last nice feature I'm going to talk about is actually the swim ladder. On the starboard side of the boat, there's actually a real nice swim ladder, and unfortunately my last boat, I actually fell out of it on a fairly windy day when the seas were pretty rough, and let me tell you, it was not easy to get back in that boat. So having this swim ladder as an option to help get back in the boat's awesome, and it also gives me the opportunity to throw the kids in the lake on a hot summer day when they get tired of fishing. The last really cool thing about the boat is actually the trailer. And as you can see, I got the guides basically to help guide on the trailer. So essentially all I have to do is back the trailer up until about 2 to 3 inches of trailer are sticking out of the top of the water. And then it's as simple as driving the boat up on the trailer and driving it up until it touches the cleat up in front. The swing away tongue that I talked about earlier is the feature that makes it possible to get it in my garage. I also went ahead and got the full size spare tire. So to be totally honest with you, overall, it's a great trailer to go along with the boat. So one thing you will notice is I did manage to scratch my boat already, unfortunately. And what I found out was in the high winds, especially, I was actually out on 22 mile an hour winds the second day I had it, and the wind just kind of blew me sideways into the pier. So what I learned is this is a little bit more delicate to park than my old John boat, which honestly I really didn't care. If you had a scratch on it, you wouldn't have been able to notice. But overall, I'm very, very impressed with the boat. It's been an awesome boat for me. I bought this from Fish and Ski Marine in Sanger. You see me wearing their hats in a lot of my videos. They're great guys. They really helped me find a boat that was absolutely a perfect fit for me, helped me order it, really got it completed fairly quickly. And not only do I have the boat that I want, but also my kids have the boat that they like to go out in as well. So if you're looking for a boat here in Texas and you're considering aluminum versus fiberglass, you're looking for something to take the family out and maybe you don't want a pontoon, I definitely recommend this. It does have the fish and ski capability. I can put a pylon on and go about 35, 40 miles an hour and drag my kids around on an inflatable. Obviously I wouldn't be going that fast, but you do have the option. So if you're looking for a great family boat, multi-use, good for deep cockpit type fishing, sand bass jigging, striper fishing, etc., catfishing even, I strongly recommend this boat. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the video.